Colin Brother here from Brrraaains A Head-Banging Life, gbhblofficial.com for short, and it's reaction time. Doing something a classic for our reaction videos. A Brendan chosen classic because it's a mellow death track. Not just any old kind of mellow death track. It's an old school melodic death metal track, as the band themselves describes in the comments. And that just made me smile because nobody likes to really use that unless you're doing thrash. And like, that's your selling point. You're like, yeah, we're trying to ape the 80s and we're still wearing denim and stuff like that. Nobody really likes to use the term old school. So to see it in conjunction with old school melodic death metal, because most people say modern. Oh, we're a modern mellow death band. But it's good to sort of see them say, look, we're simply inspired by the Scandinavian mellow death scene. And if you know your mellow death, you can already know the kind of bands that means it's referencing. Dark Tranquillity, some areas of In Flames to a degree, I guess. And even, I guess, the bands are broadly around that as well. It isn't specifically got to be just them. But this comes from their second full album, The Dark Horizon. It's called Light in the Darkness. Now, you reviewed this album a while back, so I suppose you can kind of give a little bit more detail about it.
Yeah, so it came out back in April. The album itself is called The Dark Horizon. Yeah, everything you said there is what I was kind of given in advance. This is Megadeth in the old vein. So like you said, yeah, Dark Tranquillity, In Flames, Calma, At the Gates. Like that's where your head kind of goes. I would argue, and I think like we'll see if you agree with that description by the end of this song. I think it's too tight. I think there are some very modern aspects to what they do. I also think that they when they say old school, they might be going back older than the old school that we think of in the mainstream of old school. And actually, they in some areas, so across the album, there are things that they do that are Megadeth 100%. Don't get me wrong, but there are also areas that they're so heavy that they kind of get into blackened a little bit, but then there's also parts where, for example, there's a female singer at a point. So there's a lot going on. They're a US based band. I hadn't heard of them. I don't think I had anyway prior to this album. I'm a massive fan of the genre. That's what made me want to listen to it. It's like, oh, I haven't listened to Megadeth for at least 2 days. I'll do that one. And I loved it. I gave it a 10 out of 10 score. I think it's a phenomenal album. I enjoy it end to end. This is the closing track, if I remember correctly, on the album. But I feel this one I could have picked any one and been happy to sort of go, hey, this is a great example of this band, So
it's intriguing to hear they're from Seattle.
Yeah. It's amazing how see Megadeth reached all the way to Seattle, mate.
Well, I mean, because obviously there's the Floridian style of death metal, which has evolved as well, and then it become more melodic in certain areas as well. And often, like, you still find that more American bands take off to that. So it's
Seattle when I was younger was always what was
grunge.
famous to me for grunge.
Grunge, yeah. That's exactly what I think of when I think of Seattle. I think of rainy skies and
thank God they've
music.
Improved.
Well, thanks to being a fan of wrestling and knowing so many wrestlers from Seattle who don't fall into sort of the caricature of that city, that helps. Let's not run down to Seattle. Let's listen to Veriteras, Light in the Darkness. In 3, 2, 1, go.
Damn.
Hmm. Much thoughts.
You
I
see what I
get
mean
it.
by the I feel like they maybe that simple line of saying I'm an old school melodeath band isn't quite wide enough.
Right. I get why they're saying that, but I think it confuses, and this is the issue, right? So I get why they're saying it is because I think people are forgetting old school melodeath had a had a blacker sound. Like
Yeah,
this is a little like this is a very early era for a lot of the big, more famous bands. There is more
yeah,
familiarity between this and At the Gates than
yeah.
and so on. That I totally get. But I do think they'd benefit, and it'll probably annoy the piss out of you. I think they'd benefit from adding an extra word to their description.
You obviously
So
post. Don't say post.
no, it's simply this. Call yourself a melodic blackened
Mm,
death metal band. That's where I think, just based on just one track, you are leaning way towards a blacker sound. Like that is as clear as day. And I think it will, I think like it causes some confusion because immediately I'm thinking this sounds more like a black metal track, but with melody in it. And I said, well, that's not mellow death as it's sort of like what you expect. Now, but as you listen on, I do think there's some fairly egregious and obvious examples of where it quite clearly has more of a melodic death metal feel. But maybe it's because of the vocals more than anything else that give
mm.
it that blacker feel throughout. Don't get me wrong, there are plenty of guitar rhythms that lean towards that. But as you kind of you structurally, as you get near the end and you get to this part where there's this clean female vocals, and then you got these more orchestral elements, I think that confuses it even more. And it's like, okay, and it's not like confusing in a bad way because I don't think it's so confusing it upends the structure or changes the tone of the track in any particular way. But if we're talking about a genre specification,
Yeah,
it just confuses that element of it. You see melodic death metal, you see mellow death, you expect a certain thing. You call yourself old school mellow death, for a lot of people, they're just kind of expecting what we get from it from mellow death. So when you've got this blacker side, if you're not, I'm going to sound like such a if you're not familiar with that side of things, because I'm not overly familiar with it. I just know I'm old enough to have listened to a lot of that stuff back in the day. It's not so far removed from that,
yeah.
but you just benefit from calling yourself adding that
The
extra
the
word,
only,
adding the black into it.
the only thing I would say is that a
Mhm.
band is not normally categorized by a single song itself.
Exactly that. That's the
So
only thing.
we
I
are
base
only reacting to a single song here. And I can say, for example, that that is the only song on the whole album that has any clean vocals or female vocals at all.
mm,
Um, that doesn't mean like the style is still similar across the rest. Like his vocals are very black, to be honest
yeah,
with you. And it's definitely on the heavier side of any form of metal, to be honest with you, in terms of speed and aggression.
yeah,
But I think if you listen to it overall, you would still feel the same about the blackened aspect of it, but you would probably get more of the melodeath aspect as well.
100%. And that's the thing. Like, so I don't even like we're mentioning it just purely because it was a conversational point to
Yeah,
start.
yeah,
But I don't think it's important enough because ultimately it comes down to this. This element is always going to be so much more important. Was that a good song? Did I enjoy that? And yes, I thoroughly enjoyed that because it's got all the elements I enjoy. I've got garish vocals that sound fantastic. I've got big guitar sounds, plenty of riffs, and wonderful melodic lines in it. There's a section right around the middle where the kind of guitar goes off on its own
mm,
and it's doing this big melodic section, but you've got this slow drum beat, just slow, and then it kind of drops away. The vocals come back and we go back into it. I thought that bit was particularly excellent. I like the ending. I like the latter part because it does shift it. I mean, even at 4 minutes and 25 seconds long, find me a Melodeath song that goes over 4 minutes long, a traditional one, and chances are I will have gotten bored by the end of that track. I am not that hot on the genre as you are. There's too much familiarity in it and so on. So having a variation of here's some clean singing and here's a bit more what sound like I said orchestral elements sitting in the background of the same sort of guitar rhythm, that just freshened things up right at the end, allowing me to get to the end satisfied rather than running out of steam more than anything else. I think it's a really strong track. If that is an example of what the album is like overall, then that's going to be a great album because that's a great track. So I mean, like none of my things about whether it's black, melodic, whatever
Hmm.
means shit when it comes down to the fact is that a really fucking good song, absolutely. And it's not difficult to recommend either because the thing with genres is that they exist to make recommendations more than anything else. Hey, you're a fan of death metal, well, here's a death metal track, blah 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 blah. And obviously, with it being all structured down to so much, it makes such a mess. However, we'll break it down as simple as this: do you like heavy music with big melodic leads, garish vocals? Do you just like heavy music? This might work for you. Have a listen, see what you think. That
Yeah.
to me works brilliantly. I think it's a great track.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, yeah. Obviously, I think the same. Otherwise, I wouldn't
Yeah.
have suggested we listen to it. We're not in the habit of going, "Hey, here's a song I hate. Tell me how bad it is."
Yeah,
You know.
sometimes these reactions are a bit like you already know what you like, and it's simply about what I think more than anything else,
Yeah,
or
just trying
vice
to
versa.
gauge opinion, isn't it? That's what you're trying to do. But also like the other side of it, which is because I'm a very, very big fan of this song and this album. I think this is a great end to the album, but the
Mm.
album is great anyway. And I also think that this song is even more impressive when you listen to it as the end to the album, because you think if you listen to an album, it's not similar. There's a lot of variety across it,
Yeah,
but you still listen to what I don't know, whatever it was, 8, 9 tracks, and then you've got one more to go. There is a chance that by that point you're kind of like, all right, look, I've heard enough. So then when the last track comes on and suddenly there's a little bit of a symphonic element and a female vocal, and you go, oh shit, completely
refreshes.
refreshed. So as you were in the song, you also are in the album.
Yeah,
And that's cool because it shows like, and I think we used to get this a lot with bands. It's not always the case these days, but often it used to be that the last track in the album might be the one where the band go, let me just show you a couple of other things we've got in our minds as well, like a few
yeah,
other ideas here, which is
yeah,
kind of cool. But yeah, like, I think they're strong. Like I said, it's only their second album out. There's a lot in this that I like that I've got out of this album, like
yeah,
personally, and you know, I I feel like I mean, I've only listened to the album for a month. Do you know what I mean? So I feel stupid saying it, but I feel like a super fan. Like, do you know, I'm like, this is a band. This is a band I can get on board with. This is a heavy, but not just pure heavy because you get the melody, because you get the moments. And also there are other aspects to this song that I really like. Lyrically, it's a very strong song. I know you can't necessarily hear that if you were just hearing,
no,
but if you read
I've read
along
them.
with it,
Yeah,
it's strong. I like the way he delivers. He doesn't just bark lyrics. He also like there are points when the sentence is done quicker, and then there are points where he drags a word out, and like you know what I mean. It's got like it flows well, the way that
uh,
he's
what what I really like about the lyrics is there aren't many repeated lines. Like it's quite varied all the way
yeah,
across. Like and
like
that's
a
quite
story
impressive as
almost, isn't
well.
it? Like end
Yeah,
to end.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, and this is a band that kind of needs a little bit of support as well, folks. I mean, only basing it off numbers and things like that. But this video, which is on their official YouTube channel, has been there since April 11th, has 164 views as the time of recording, man. That's not good enough. Like, that's shit. Like, let's try and
yeah.
up that up. And likewise, their Instagram followers and stuff like that. But hey, hopefully, more people hear it. They'll get on board because that's a banger song. Which is all we want to hear. Light in the Darkness by Veritas. You got any thoughts? Need to know what to do? Let us know in the comments. Thank you very much for watching. If you'd like to see more content like this, please consider hitting the subscribe button. It is gratefully appreciated. You can find us over at gbhbl.com, our full website where reviews, news and so much more goes up daily. We're also on all social media platforms: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Threads, at GBHBL. Just search for GBHBL and you will find us out there. We also have merchandise on sale. You can access the shop via the website.